everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations 20. I just forgot from it. 2018 Innovation Award winner and 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. I also co-host and co-produce the only online show in the world for dads, fathers, and male caregivers that is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. And being part of that movement, reached out directly and indirectly to over 400,000 dads, fathers, and male caregivers around the world. Not me alone, it is a team. And as we get in the tail end of this year, 2025, we're speaking that at the end of this year, we'll be able to say 500,000. But as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live on September 14th, 2025, and we have had gorgeous weather in the Toronto area over the last few days. Not too hot, not too cold. Well, warm enough, but no humidity. It has been beautiful today. This would maybe be a day where I could have hosted the show from my veranda. It's so nice outside. It's so nice. But you know what? We're not going to fool around with that. As always, on Sunday afternoons, we are doing Black Canada Talking, where Black Canadians get a chance to give their takes, POVs, thoughts on stories local, provincial, national, international, around the world. And as always, we are joined by my great associate, Cesar Ndema-Moussa. Cesar, how are you today? Need you to unmute my brother.
I apologize. You were.
No
You just
problem.
told me. You just told me.
It's okay. It's okay. How you doing?
But I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank
Oh,
you to our sisters, brothers, and all the allies listening, and new people, anyone joining us for a moment of conversation, of exchange, in agreement, and notably in disagreements, and always with respect.
100%. How are things family-wise?
They're good. They're coming back home. I left them at a friend's house, enjoying the weather, the pool party. But I
Nice.
took the kids earlier today to watch football. Went to a pub, watched football, of course. Manchester United losing 3-0 to Manchester
Ouch.
City.
Ouch.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a fan of either team in England. My team is Chelsea.
Yes.
And but good weather like this on a Sunday, taking out the kids, giving the mothers a moment of break. Yeah.
Good stuff. How are things on the front line with all the hard work that you do helping people?
Thank you so much for asking. Work, but work, as you said, um, it's not just the intellectual work, it's also the hard work. To that end, uh, I want to give a shout out to my colleague, CEO Ketsia Peters, CEO of North South Development Culture Canada, for the great work she's doing. We have a program where it's already running, but she will make an announcement in addressing, minimizing, and hopefully greatly reducing uh, uh, crime in the youth population. Not just Black youth, especially targeted to Black youth, yes, but open to all youth in different schools. So we are actively working on that, all doing our part. Me, of course, addressing public servants and senior leaders on the very matters of, DEI in the U.S., equity, diversity, and inclusivity, and truly social justice um, with my lens, non-social work per se, but a lens of history, politics, religion and culture, and always socioeconomics, of course.
I want to ask your take about crime because especially in the United States, the federal government and all this wanting to eradicate crime. Do you feel that the United States federal government is missing the boat? They're wanting to enforce it on the end, but not really taking a look at the root causes, trying to attack the root causes of crime.
Absolutely. And we have to be, first, I want to say we have to be careful in the fact that for those who are victims, if the presence of the military helps to reduce crime, you cannot be surprised that for them it would seem to be a good thing, even if temporarily. but
Hmm.
ultimately it doesn't work. It doesn't work, first of all, because the intent behind this administration in sending National Guard and military is, first of all, performative in terms of a show of strength, but also it is very much politicized because, as you did mention, when you want to address crime, what do you address first and foremost? You address poverty. You address inequalities. You address housing and healthcare. You address the things that make it that people, young but also old, have to even have the thought of committing a crime. Of course, there are some people who are greedy, etc. But on that note, if you want to talk about greed, white collar crime hurts society more than petty or blue collar crime at the street level. So when you talk about tackling crime, it's a matter of tackling social issues and systemic issues over a long time. Here's a perfect example that most people are not aware of. The other side of the world, in Japan, they have a crisis of people being jailed. What is particular about these people? The senior citizens. Since when would you even think of senior citizens as criminals, notably in a country like Japan? Well, they're not exactly criminals, but what's happening is that they have an increase of senior citizens committing petty robberies and thefts, not as criminals, but in order to be arrested and be put in jail. Why? Free healthcare, free food, they get companionship, things that they're missing in their daily life with an aging population, a dropping birth rate, a greater sense of isolation, mental health issues, the rising cost of living, and notably of medication. So this is the same thing. What we have in America, and interestingly, as you asked the question, the cities that Trump is sending national guards and armies to are cities that had been combating crime and youth misbehaviors for years, if not decades, and seen results. Now, of course, we cannot be satisfied with just a drop in the rate per se of crime, but there's no such a thing as 0% crime, as even in white cities or let's say white neighborhoods, crime can still occur. However, because they have more resources, more social services, more means, more access to education and education of quality with higher potential of better employment, people are less prone to commit crime. And of course, let's never forget, sis out there, crime is not a matter of skin color. It's a matter of environment and societal issues. That's all it is. Nothing special. You look at the history of the Western world, the other was always the criminal, the stranger, the below us, the different species, you name it. So it's a matter of environment and addressing systemic inequalities and social issues. Yeah.
I think that's a great way to hit the appetizer. And I want to say, too, lots of people are watching replays of Black Canada Talking, the one I just recently posted. Interesting enough, it seemed like a number of trolls were pushing back on Cesar. So I've got to share him the link. And I know he'll have a laugh at it. He may want to respond to one or two of the comments, but Cesar is always bringing great.
I welcome that, and
Oh,
I've been known. I mean, I've known since a kid, and even high school. People have known me my entire life. You say, I always welcome an exchange, a debate, you name it, and notably on contrarian ideas. Um, I don't so much function on the logic of, as we're going to talk about Charlie Kirk, prove me wrong, but I function on the logic of I don't believe in anything. I know or I learn. And what I know, I keep learning on it so that I know better, so I can provide better information in order to help to create a better world. This is not nothing personal and nothing about being egocentric or whatever you want to call it. So, trolls are trolls. Guess what I am? My face is in the air, the ancestors are looking at me, and we have a young generation that we need to prepare for the world of tomorrow.
well said. On that, we'll go on a break, come back, do some housekeeping, and then we got always three great topics to have conversation about. So we'll be back in 30 seconds.
If the black dollar was not important, they wouldn't be doing these type of commercials to get your business back.
The same people who don't want gun checks, mental health checks, all for open carry, and when your kid gets shot in school, they offer thoughts and prayers. Make it make sense.
Y'all don't understand how our government works.
I think the lesson that we learned from that 4 years is how miserable people are. Their misery is contagious.
There we go. Aisha K. Staggers, Laura Key, Saturday afternoons, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific, hosting Primetime Saturday with Aisha and Lala, where they try to make sense of the nonsense that's going on in America. All right, let's get some housework done. Subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also, like the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. Also, pardon me, if you'd like to advertise your business, product, or service on our show, you can do that. Just contact me at dr, VIBE, at the dr, VIBESHOW.com, or, yeah, that is the way. That is the way. Also, too, can't forget Indie Soup TV, independent content creators platform run by our good friend Dr. Tachi out of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and almost 28,000 YouTube subscribers. And realize that only 4% of all YouTube channels has over 10,000 subscribers. Let me get that right. But I found out, like, I've got 1,900, and I've been told only about 10 to 15% of all YouTube channels have over 1,000 subscribers. So I felt, yay, got to celebrate that. And Cesar is part of that success. Also, too, if you want to get a hold of Cesar, you can email him at president@Roots and Culture Canada. Also, you can catch him on Facebook at Cesar Remy Emery. Also, if you are watching this live on the replay, there is a QR code right beside Cesar. You can scan that, and that will take you right to his Facebook page. And one other thing we'll do today, if you are watching live, you actually have an opportunity if you want to call in. So if you'd like to call in and express your thoughts, opinions, etc. in real time, whether you have a smartphone, laptop, desktop, whatever digital device, if you go to your favorite browser, put in callme.road.com, So let me say that again, callme.road.com, or with your smartphone, you can scan the QR code. It will take you to a page, put in the code in capital letters FSP, L8L. And I know people say, well, there's already a code there. You can type over it, no problem. And then put in your name, and then you'll get a green pop-up saying, join the conversation. Click on that green button, and we're able to patch you in live. But let's get back to our conversation that we're going to have today. And our first topic that we're going to be chatting about today, Cesar wants to chat about, is from Africa. African Union, Ghana, Ethiopia, Burkina Faso, and France. Go ahead, Cesar.
Well, Dr. Vibe, I wanted to take a few minutes. Of course, we have this important topic to talk about regarding political violence and etc. that happened, but this is Black Canada talking. Our people first. And as such, we must speak about our people directly first. And here, in talking about from Africa, some of the latest news from the continent, because I want to make sure that our people are aware. Part of the progress of our continent and our people as a whole is how the African Union, which is often and rightfully criticized, I mean, we can look at a perfect example how the crisis in Congo, the war between the Congolese government, the MR23, and Rwanda, um, the perception of a peace deal, peace accord, was signed in Washington, not in Addis Ababa, the seat of the African Union. So, yes, totally fair to criticize the African Union, but at the same time, the African Union is also working on coming together in a better way. And an example of this is how they're coming together for the incoming COP30 International Summit on the Environment, because climate change, what continent is first and most impacted by climate change? It's Africa. It is a continent which also is seeing the highest demographic changes in terms of population increase, and population increase always rhymes with stress upon resources and the environment. On one side, we can also celebrate the fact that there is, the fight against desertification, aka the spread of the desert, notably with planting trees. But when we look at it, news such as Science tells us that the African continent is splitting apart, is literally creating situations, conditions, I should say, in which we need a better integrated African Union to be more cohesive and to be more concrete. When I wanted to bring the topic about Ghana, and I shouldn't even have said Ghana and Ethiopia because it's more related to Ghana and Burkina Faso here, but Ghana has will be welcoming may not be the right term, but Ghana will be receiving African prisoners from the United States, so deportees. There you go, that the Trump administration is kicking out. They asked for preference for West African um, deported people who are being deported from the US, but not so much in order to jail them, in order to ease for them to be able to go back to the native country or country of origin. I think this is a great idea. Honestly, this is showing cooperation. Um, I mean, on one side, they're getting something out of the US, aka lower tariffs in terms of Trump's policy. But this is collaboration with people who, as the studies are showing, most of the people that the Trump administration is kicking out, is deporting. They're not criminals. They're not the street gangs that's killing people. It's regular black and brown people who happen to have some non-white Anglo-Saxon last name nor look, and they're the ones who basically are getting, we can really call it that way, iced out of the United States. Um, for Ethiopia, I want our people to know, and this is a very fascinating story here. Ethiopia has basically come forward with the building of the dam for the Nile River. This goes back to a conflict since 1959 with the Negus Rastafari Makonnen. Dr. Vab, do you know who that is?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I mentioned it before and surprised you all know who that is. Rastafari Makonnen is the actual birth name of Haile Selassie, the
Hmm.
emperor of Ethiopia. And please don't get it mistaken. He stood up against the Libyans, but a Pan-Africanist brother, the greatest Pan-Africanist, Marcus Garvey, strongly disliked him because Haile Selassie was in support of slavery, aka slavery of black people. But Haile Selassie stood up against the Rais of Egypt, which means the chief of Egypt, back in 1959. That was Gamal Abdel Nasser, because the Nile River was essential for population growth, but also economic development. So Ethiopia is going forward. It's creating a little bit of, concerns among the other countries, and it's not just in terms of potential flooding, but the conflict that can come with an Ethiopia as a nation growing in demographics, but also with its alliance, its close relationship with China, growing strongly in terms of its economy. People have to understand that there is that alliance. I think notably to the Confucius centers where young Ethiopians go to China to increase on the technological and technical knowledge, which also comes with, of course, learning of Mandarin and Chinese culture. You ask me, it's a form of colonization, aka yellow neo-colonization. But at the same time, this is part of development in the same way as we go back to 1972, Richard Nixon meeting Mao, opening the door for Chinese students to become engineers and other technocrats in the United States, but then going back to China to boost China. So let's hope this is what happens for Ethiopia. For Burkina Faso, uh, very simple. Um, the great leader of Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, has canceled visa for Africans to come to Burkina Faso. It's a very sensitive measure, which I expect will apply to the other two countries of the Sahel, Niger and Mali, but also other African countries. As going back to the African Union, that cohesion in terms of concrete measures, like the European Union and just like NAFTA, no visa to ease trade, but also to ease the movement of populations, to increase not only coming together, cooperation, but also growing together, economics and influence. And last but not least, we must talk about France. We're talking about Africa. Why are we talking about France? France is going in turmoil in terms of its politics and the government. But the impact this can have is notably on the African population in France, as being the population with the lowest socioeconomic. The situation in France declining. I can't remember if the Fitch agency has already downgraded the credit rating of France. But as the political and socioeconomic situation of France declines, it will have a worse impact upon Black populations, notably as it also increases the risk of the far right of Marine Le Pen coming to power. And they've made it very clear this is a party, and not just them. You also have Reconquête of Eric Zemmour, which is even further to the right. The Great Replacement theory, white supremacist ideologies. So I'm asking for our people not to fall for the divisions between African Americans, Africans, Caribbeans. Don't fall for that. We are seen as one people, and what happens to one group ends up impacting the other group. So let us pay attention to also these news and not just be consumed by what's happening right here in these lands, such as the United States, in which our fate can be sealed any day, not just by a racist white cop or even black cop, let's be honest, but also government policies, etc., etc.
Before I know we're somewhat tight for time, but I just want to get your thoughts on this subject involving Africa. How deep is China's penetration into the continent of Africa?
Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. The question is too good, my brother.
I
We're
too
going
much
back.
so while I get a good one.
Listen, I was presenting on this even in university, and I am not scared of calling it yellow neo-colonization because, people like to talk about white, black. Let's call it what it is. Yellow neo-colonization, because in many ways, what happens, and please do not get me wrong, China did not enslave Africans. China did not colonize Africans. However, there is a debt trap policy upon African nations for which, don't get me wrong, I say it again, African nations must be blamed first for the unequal relation they do with China. A perfect example is how you have China Africa Summit. One country receiving an entire continent coming to take the knee and beg for money. Now, of course, it is painted as mutual cooperation. But check what happened with Djibouti. When Djibouti couldn't pay, China seized the port of Djibouti. Can you imagine this?
That's
Look,
crazy.
in a multipolar world, absolutely we can understand the nature of cooperation that leads to notably the Wagner forces, aka Russian paramilitary, in the Sahel region, as those countries are kicking out France and the United States and still fighting against the Islamists. But the relationship is unequal. How unequal? Perfect example here. More and more in Central Africa, there is a growth of Chinese men marrying African women. Many of these African women being taken to China because of demographics, birth rate, and the cultural aspect of marriage in China. This is not a criticism of interracial relationships. I'm very blunt and honest. I support interracial relationships with a mixed wife, a mixed baby sister, plenty of mixed relatives and friends. I would be quite a hypocrite to be against interracial relationships. But what is the nature of these relationships? A Chinese man can own land in Africa. An African man can't own land in China. Where are these African men who are marrying Chinese women and bringing them to Africa? That's not happening either. So you see, I oppose categorically unequal relationships. It drives my wife nuts because even in a private life, I can really be about that. I don't like unequal relationships because they always lead to conflicts in the long term. These are things that are going on. And in Africa, but we have to be fair to the Chinese, in Africa is greatly driven governance of too many nations. Let me give you another perfect example here. China has pandas and other animals, correct? Would you think is doing the safari and the trophy hunting of endangered animal species in Africa? It is not the black person like me who has means and travels to Africa to go shoot an elephant or a rhinoceros for its horn. It is not some African American or Afro Brazilian or Jamaican or Haitian. Overwhelmingly, white men, Chinese men, and others with means in complicity with corrupt government officials in Africa. There are documentaries to this end. Even Al Jazeera, all the way from Qatar, found this very strange. The mismanagement of African nations eases new forms of neo-colonization. We're talking about China, and China is not some evil, and I don't consider white nations as evil. It's power relations. Let's not forget this. Many people, thousands of people die every year in Africa due to cancers from garbage. Dr. Vi, where do you think this garbage come from that killed them? Coming from the Western world, third, fourth hand cars, plastic, recycled, dumped in Africa, people living on top of garbages. Meanwhile, you have elected politicians who are buying new Jeep, new Mercedes, and the people are dying. Like I always say, it's not about always pointing the finger to the evil white man. No. Being white does not mean you're evil. It's not about pointing the finger to the evil Chinese, the evil Arab, the evil Jew, the evil alien. No, this is a pathetic weakness of too many black minds. When we look at our own people, this is why our great leader Thomas Sankara, back in the 80s, succeeded in his revolution. No one in his government was allowed to drive a Mercedes. They had to drive small, cheap cars and work hard. Even take the bicyclette, bicycle, the cycle.
Bicycle, yeah.
Bicycle, yes. So no. We must denounce our form of colonization. But when we point that finger, there are three fingers looking back at us. What are we doing?
Good stuff.
China is not a friend of Africa. China has its interest in Africa.
Of course.
Africa must be strong to also have its interest. Not so much in China. Africa is a continent. China is a country. China must have its interest in Asia, as in Europe, as in America. Treat country to country, continent to continent. Unequal relationships are never good.
Well said. Well said. Before we move to our next conversation topic, look, she is here. Dr. Tachi is in the house and says good evening.
Oh,
and
Dr.
she also
Tachi, my
says
sister.
it's not black people. And she says that we need to be more protective of who enters African countries. And two, the stupid governments need to stop accepting other trash.
Thank you. There you go. I mean, I give you a crazy example here. How many people know that there are African car brands? Do you think the African governments are driving African car brands? No, no, no. It must be the Mercedes. It must be the made in South Korea or made in the United States. Inferiority complexes. I would love to have a Tatanka here in Canada. It's not possible yet, but I would love to. A Tatanka and other African, like you see what I mean? It's a mindset thing. I love my Cadillac, but I'd love even more being able to say I'm driving an African made car brand or a car brand by a brother or a sister. Support your own.
Got it. Dr. Tachi says the problem is there are too many African countries who are run by colonized minds.
Absolutely.
There we
A
go.
beautiful exception is the country of Botswana. Botswana, my people, especially those who have the means and mindset for investment, take a look at Botswana. And Botswana fortunes came with President Kama, in brackets, he had a white wife, not implying that it meant anything, but his wife as a central part of his success, working together, advising him. The son also became president. It starts in the home, my friends. It starts in the home.
All right.
Oh, and Dr. Vibe, FYI, as you were mentioning time, don't worry. We can go to 6:30. We have a big topic.
Oh, okay.
So I
All
don't want
right.
us.
All right.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. Good.
That's a pleasure.
I just wanted to make sure because I know time can be tight. All right. So let's talk about our next conversation topic. Carney's Canada. Canada mega projects and independence from America.
Well, first of all, um, Prime Minister Carney, the latest polls reveal that majority of Canadians support Prime Minister Carney, up to 58%, which has been a record high. Arguably, no, I don't want to say for any politician, but for a prime minister since Trudeau's first term, beginning of his first term, when it peaked at 61%. The other thing is that in regards to these mega projects, so mega projects such as liquefied natural gas, a nuclear plant, expansion of the Montreal port, these five mega projects that have been presented are directly linked to less dependency and reliance upon um, a United States uh, regime, we could say, whose economic decisions are harmful to Canada. Don't get me wrong, every country does what it does for its own sake. We can talk about whether these measures, economic measures from the Trump government, are even good for America, but definitely for Canada, they are not. So I do support these mega projects. I support these initiatives from Prime Minister Carney. But I can't help but wonder, Dr. Vibe, the question about the pipeline and Alberta. Because Alberta is borderline
Very
in the middle
true.
of the country.
Yep.
Well, there you go. That's the thing. It's borderline in the middle of the country. And I know they're having the census regarding staying or not in Canada. And from what I hear, from what I see in the news, of course, the majority of Albertans want to remain in Canada. But let us stop looking down or minimizing those minorities that make a lot of noise. And this is what's happening right now, notably as they do have a premier, Premier Smith, Daniel Smith, who, while claiming federalism, is definitely quite conciliant to Alberta's separatism. So I would invite Prime Minister Carney in moving forward with these mega projects and unifying Canada. And please, let's not get it wrong. The unifying of Canada and creating less reliance on the United States with more partners around the world must also come with a cultural unification. And that cultural unification, you know, elbows up is great. Being versus anti Donald Trump can also work. But this is not a matter of until 2028. This has to become as part of the Canadian identity as the Maple Leaf, the O Canada, the Stanley Cup, and other elements of Canadian heritage, where Canada has to really see itself as a country that can and should stand on its own. Those three oceans should not be defended truthfully by the US Army, no matter how any Canadian in pride would love to argue it. So we need to literally have a political elite that understand it's great to have these projects, it's great to bring jobs, and but if the cost of living remains high, if we basically keep having issues in terms of the integration of indigenous peoples who did complain that they were not as consulted as they wished. You see where I'm going. It's not just this less dependency and reliance on the US is not just a matter of look, we are creating jobs. No, because Alberta will remain like like a rock in the shoe. You want to keep moving forward, but there's that rock that you can't remove out of your shoe.
Are you at all concerned about the pushback from the Indigenous community?
Unfortunately, I'm not. And I'm saying unfortunately because it speaks to the still colonial nature of Canada, in which such big decisions can be made while dismissing entirely or somewhat indigenous chiefs and leaders consult. Look, we have to be honest. This is Canada. If a Canadian government wants to, like, let's say the example of the pipeline, if they really want to build a pipeline, they'll build it. They'll build it. Whether it's sending the RCMP, local police, or the army. But I think we have to take the opportunity of the times that we live in where we can have conversations, treaties, and, certain arrangements, and notably the notion of the, how do you call that? Triple P's joint, public-private partnerships coming for mega projects. This is what we should be having, so that it's not just a perception of being imposed, example of indigenous people, but it can be something constructive. And something that drives my thinking there is because when we look at the development of urban areas in the United States, it was greatly at the detriment of Black communities. From redlining to building a highway going through a Black community in order to impoverish us. I mean, originally, the very thing that we call the projects, that was for poor white people. Black people were not allowed in projects. Black people lived in segregated zones. There was no Black projects. Projects are government funding urban areas that used to house poor white people. And part of the race war that the US government has led for a long time upon Black people, and is still leading, has notably been the destruction of Black communities, example, redlining, but also straight up building of highways without consulting Black communities in order to destroy them. Thus, projects becoming inhibited overwhelmingly by Black people. So I think the intent is great, of course, the motivation is great, but let us go beyond that. Let us think not 2028 because Donald Trump has a boogeyman. No. Let us think, what do we want the Canada 2100 to be like? What about 2150? And of course, I'm saying this, we do have experts who are thinking in those you know of such with those time frame. But do the people actually see that? Do they believe that? Or is it just a mega project that doesn't seem to make sense? Meanwhile, talks about multiculturalism, talks about uh, bilingualism, etc., etc. We don't want to be a smaller version of the United States. Canada has to dare become truthfully a country standing on its own with partnerships around the world, not just with the United States, not mainly with the United States. Canada has the potential of being a power. It is in certain fields, absolutely. And I'm not just talking about, how do you call that? I'm not just talking about hockey. I'm talking about notably mining. So the Carney government notably wants to fund mining. Well, let's do that. But let us dare to reach further our potential. As either Stephen Harper or, my gosh, I'm having a memory blank here. The former Prime Minister of Quebec, Jean Charest. It was either
Mhm.
Stephen Harper or Jean Charest who said, Canada will be thankful to Donald Trump in 20 to 30 years, as indeed his measures have forced Canada to actually grow up and stand up on its own. Let us see.
100%. It'll be very interesting because we have to move forward.
We have to. The world has changed. This is not Big Brother USA anymore. This is so called MAGA, in brackets, mainly for the billionaires. I mean, don't be surprised, don't be surprised that we end up having more and more American refugees coming to Canada.
Oh,
And I'm not talking about Haitians. I'm talking about,
surprise. Wouldn't be surprised. Gonda, here's a comment that Dr. Tachi made a few moments ago. Sorry, we'll catch up on. She's saying we need, in regards to African countries, we need to take a hint from Asian countries. Where you may be able to lease the land for a certain number of years, but you can never own it.
absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great idea.
That
And
is,
Dr. Tachi was talking in reference to Africa, the conversation in Africa.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
100%. All right. The rest of the show is gonna be about this topic, and of course, Charlie Kirk, 47, and MAGA, political violence and the future of U.S. democracy. And I want to invite people, if you want to call in and chat about this. I don't know. I think Dr. Tachi's watching. Dr. Tachi, if you are watching or listening, we always love you to come on. Cesar, always appreciate you coming on again. Go to your favorite browser, put in callme.rode.com, or if you have a smartphone, scan the QR code there. When you get to that next screen, you'll get to a Rode screen. Put in the code FSPL8L. Replace the code that's on there. Put your name in, and then join conversation will come up in green, and then I'll be able to patch you in. But let's get back to what we're chatting about. So let's get back to this. And also, before we even go further, a promo. Live on Tuesday, September 16th at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Cesar, Dr. Tachi, and Emma Ansa. If you haven't met Emma yet, another powerhouse. We'll be talking about Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, impact and views from blacks. So just want to put that out there. If you're available, come on in for that conversation. Cesar, kick it off.
I want to say this. The first thing I want to say regarding Charlie Kirk, Trump, and MAGA, before I even address it, is to reiterate something I've always said, Dr. Vibe, since you've known me for all these years. I do not ascribe to the left or right polarities of Western politics. People would be tempted to think I am of the right because I support the death penalty. People would be tempted to think I am of the left because I support abortion and women's rights, just as male financial desistment and rejection of paternity. I'm a Pan Africanist. Don't put me in the left right narratives. Of course, as a DEI professional and looking at my heroes above me, I absolutely can understand how and why, as we talk about Black progress, social justice, how someone would be tempted to think I am of the left. I understand that. In regards to Charlie Kirk, what happens on Wednesday is not a tragedy because it's Charlie Kirk. Absolutely don't care about that. There's a Palestinian journalist who got killed by the Israeli government. I think Ansar al-Nassif, or I'm forgetting his name, but people who are pro-Palestine easily know who I'm talking about. He also had a wife and children. Where's the empathy for him? So many people get killed, professionals, notably in terms of freedom of speech. Where's the empathy for them? However, before I come back on empathy, because I will, it's important to state, and I reiterate this. I know how some of our people don't like to hear this, but no matter how much you dislike or even hated what Charlie Kirk said and represented and supported, and I do too, I oppose that man entirely. He did not deserve to be shot, killed, assassinated for his words. It's a very important thing that we must accept. This is not about Black people being on the higher moral ground or whatever. No, 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 no. I was with a friend earlier. She's not at all pro Charlie Kirk. That's not it. But as she put it, anyone who has heard me talk about religion, anyone who has ever heard me talk about politics, identity issues, it doesn't take a genius to figure out that some lunatic out there could become so extreme to think much ill of me and thus want to attempt my life. Perfect example, Charlie Kirk was assassinated, I believe, Wednesday. Monday, some Black extremist Christian referring to me as Satan proceeded to message me on from the public group, message me on Messenger, call me, and many other things that I won't mention here. In democracy, people should not be killed for the words. As far as I know, this man, Charlie Kirk, 31 years old, husband and father, did not kill anyone. Dislike and hate what he says. He's using his words, combat him with words. Once you get physical, and notably to the point of assassination, you end up proving him right that he won the debate. There's no hypocrisy here. I'm Black and proud. My fist is up. Too many of our leaders have been killed, assassinated for the words. Edgar Meavers, Brother Martin Luther King, Brother Malcolm X, Brother Fred Hampton, at 21 years old, while being with his pregnant girlfriend or wife. I don't want to mischaracterize our brother. On the African continent, Patrice Lumumba, Thomas Sankara. What did Lumumba do wrong when he spoke the truth to the king of the Belgians? What did Thomas Sankara do wrong when he spoke the truth to François Mitterrand, President of France, in 1987 at the summit of La Beaune? The words, they represented a danger. So, in saying this, when right-wingers, Republicans, MAGA, try to compare Charlie Kirk to, I saw this meme of Charlie Kirk with Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Jesus. It's a travesty. It's absolutely a travesty. Our brother spoke for social justice, Charlie Kirk, and people can argue all they want in regards to contextualizing, in regards to just his views and opinions. I know how debate work. I've done debate for so many years. Charlie Kirk was a white supremacist. Charlie Kirk was a Christian fascist, aka selective use of the Bible to advance right-wing political extremist ideas. Charlie Kirk time and again attacked black people, from mocking the death of George Floyd, and then now people are surprised to see black people mocking the death of Charlie Kirk. Where was the empathy of Charlie Kirk for George Floyd, his family, and his daughter? Irony? George Floyd couldn't breathe and died. Charlie Kirk died being shot in the neck. I don't believe in karma, but it's ironic. Charlie Kirk supported the lies of Donald Trump in regards to Haitian eating cats and dogs. Am I making it up? Or those are his own tweets that are resurfacing? Do I need to talk about how to him the Second Amendment, aka the right to bear arms, was that much important that it was okay that some people would die, including if they were children? My daughter began kindergarten 2 weeks ago, Dr. Vibe. When she began school 2 weeks ago, what motivated me to walk her to the bus stop and then to go to her school wasn't just because she began school, but if you recall, I think it was 2 weeks ago, there was a school shooting,
Yep.
elementary school shooting in the US.
Yep.
My daughter does not deserve empathy because someone, as Charlie Kirk, wants to have the right to bear arms. I have a firearm license, but you think I would have no empathy for children being killed? Charlie Kirk, as a Christian Zionist from the United States, had such support for the state of Israel that he didn't recognize the existence of the state of Palestine. Where is his empathy for the over 60,000 innocent people? Don't get me wrong, I'm not including people from Hamas, so reduce that number as you wish. But Palestine, over 60,000 people killed, murdered, war crimes. More and more Israelis, prominent Israelis, as former ambassadors, politicians, even organizations, human rights organizations, including B'Tselem, organizations of former IDF soldiers, speaking of genocide by the state of Israel upon Palestinians in Gaza. Where's Mr. Charlie Kirk's empathy for the children in Gaza? For those boys and girls killed, becoming handicapped, seeing the parents dying, the trauma that it creates. Is it so hard to think 10, 15, 20 years down the road? These kids becoming adults of tomorrow, many of them, not some, many of them may want revenge. The collective punishment of what Hamas has done to them, won't it be swung back? Many people, including Jewish people, are saying, no, this is a tragedy. It's too much. Where was the empathy? The position of even abortion and women's rights and mocking, insulting black women's brain capacities, questioning DEI to the point of, what was that thing again? Something about black pilots?
Yeah.
So literally, me as a black man and a Pan-Africanist, what takes the plane often, I see a white pilot, I should assume that he's probably racist, that he's going to crash the plane because I'm there? That would be ridiculous. But so a black pilot must be a DEI hire. Remember Donald Trump talking about DEI hire. Look at the The white men that he put in his government, incompetence, unqualified. And even the one brown man, aka Kash Patel, is being questioned by even the MAGA people regarding how incompetent he is. Of course, he's incompetent. What experience does he have in public safety? I have more than he does. And I wouldn't see myself qualified to be director of the FBI. Yet I have more experience in running security and public safety than Kash Patel. I do. Let's compare our resume. The one brown guy is being ridiculed for his theatrical performance following the arrest of this Taylor Robinson, the assassin of Charlie Kirk. I can go on with many other examples, but again, as I said from the start, nothing justifies that he got assassinated. Because if we justify his assassination, we are justifying the potential assassination of each and any one of us. And we must not forget that America, black leaders who dare to stand up and speak up for our people were assassinated. And I'm not just talking about, for example, those, our ancestors who are behind me. Emmett Till, that was an assassination because he was a black boy. So many examples, so many of our brothers and sisters, including pregnant black women, lynched. Those are assassinations. Soldiers who have fought World War I, World War II, for the United States, for the Constitution, being killed, being denied services in the name of segregation. And now we get the right wants to turn Charlie Kirk into a martyr. I'm not surprised. That's what I posted on Wednesday. But you cannot, and I will quote here a young sister of ours. I'm having a memory blank about her name. Our brother, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's daughter, who talked about, if you want people to speak good of you when you die, you should be having good words when you're alive. Now, I'm editing what she said, but that's pretty much the spirit of what she said. Now, we're having black people being fired, I think the term is doxxed, as the name and position is being put online because either the mocking or the ridiculing, again, his assassination, he didn't deserve that. Oh yeah, he has a wife and kids, but I'm saying one. No. All those Palestinian journalists, a war crime. Never have so many journalists been killed in a conflict. Was Charlie Kirk showing empathy to them as they have wife and kids? So many children murdered in school. Where was the empathy? None. George Floyd, mocking George Floyd death. Dr. Vibe, I've said it. There's no hypocrisy with me. When he was alive, George Floyd and I would not have been friends. We walked on different paths. But in death and the way he was killed, we became brothers beyond the skin color. For me, just as you could be the next George Floyd, and there might not be a 17-year-old black girl there to record 9 minutes and a half. So the hypocrisy of people of the right and of MAGA. Now, I'm seeing how they're making memes about how when the right is hurt, they're coming together for moments of peace. But when it's the left, or such as George Floyd, they burn cities, the hypocrites. We heard the words of the governor of Utah. What's his name? Last name Cook, if I'm not mistaken. Hoping that it wasn't someone from the state, someone from the country. Oh, please, cut the BS. He was hoping it wasn't a white man. He's a Republican. We heard the rhetoric of Donald Trump in regards to immigrants, xenophobia, race, and racism. They were so wishing it wasn't a white man. Notably, a young white man raised in a conservative Donald Trump voting family. Ooh, that was disturbing. Why couldn't he be some Tug, some Tyrone? Why couldn't he be some Muslim Allah Akbar uh, from Dearborn, Michigan? Why couldn't he be some LGBTQ green hair trans whatever you want to call it? Why couldn't he be a Mexican? That would have fit the rhetoric so well. Oh well, let's pause the war, and you end up having racially complex people such as Andrew Tate typing "it's war." Or war is postponed. So they talk about political violence, but look, Donald Trump, his language for the last 10 years has been political violence. The convicted felon is a champion of political violence like the United States have. January 6, 2021, Dr. Vibe. Tropical Trump in Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, just got condemned to 27 years in jail. Brazil did what they were supposed to do to defend democracy. I need to remind the four horsemen, the four men that are blamed for Trump, the useless Mary Garland of the Justice Department, the weak Mitch McConnell of the Senate, Justice Roberts, who literally is giving free passes to Trump, and Joe Biden. Yes, Joe Biden. Because if he had been a black man who looked like me and you or you, January 6th, we would have mobilized 5,000 plus black men to attack Congress. We would have been in jail, if not killed, that same night. If it was a Muslim takeover of Congress, if it was Mexican takeover of Congress, if it was an LGBTQ takeover of Congress and attacking police, they would have been jailed, if not killed, the same night. We all know it. The hypocrisy and the fear of the MAGA movement, and notably, it's not so much about fear of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is scared because he knows what just happened in Brazil. Jair Bolsonaro could happen to him. This is part of the redistricting plan. This is also part of talks about, what if I were to stay longer? A third term. Like a good African dictator, wannabe dictator as he is, he wants to die in the seat of power. I am born in Cameroon, Dr. Vibe. You remember, Cameroon has its distinction in politics. It is the country that has the longest ongoing dictator. Paul Biya since 1982. How many American presidents have come and gone since then? Since 1982. Donald Trump is making his calculation. His safety is to die in the seat of power. So please, my people, no. I must say no. His assassination is a crime. But the difference between George Floyd and Charlie Kirk, that white cop would have escaped justice if he wasn't at the protest. And of that video by our young sister, 17-year-old, so brave. So brave. That white cop, Derek Chauvin, would have escaped justice. And matter of fact, the Trump administration wants to give him a pardon, like Charlie Kirk. He was talking about giving a pardon to Derek Chauvin. Will they give a pardon to Taylor Robinson? Oh no, they're going to make sure to execute him quick. These guys are going to sit on death row for 10 or 20 years and risk some very left-wing Democrat president, like maybe the Mamdani guy in New York, who might become mayor, will likely become mayor, to give him a pardon. They're not going to take a chance of that. Dr. Vibe, let me take a break. Let's have, please go ahead.
Well, I don't want to get too deep into this because we're going to talk more about it on
Tuesday.
But I do want to ask you, what did you think of 47's response saying the radical left? And it wasn't, there was that initial response, oh, the radical left, and a number of Republicans saying radical left, when the radical left had nothing to do with this. And especially Kash Patel putting out stuff before the person was even caught.
Of course. But this is part of You're reminding me of our brother right above my head here, Barack Obama, former President Barack Hussein Obama. When he delivered a speech in which he said, the whole conversation about MAGA, Make America Great Again by Donald Trump, is a scam. It's a scam because he doesn't really care about the people. Look at the state of the economy that has worsened. Look at the whole Epstein files. Look at every issue that is being addressed and the handling of it. What's happening is that Donald Trump and his administration don't have solutions for the American people nor for the world. But they have slogans. They have slogans, and this is what's happening. The radical left, because it rallies the troops. It directs a point of hate. And we know because you see, unlike the Nazis, so I am not one to be calling MAGA Nazi, and that's not in my language. I know there are people on the left who do it. I understand why they do it, but it's not my language. But there's a fundamental difference between the Nazi of 90 years ago compared to the MAGA of today. The Nazi, I'm talking about the general population here, the German population then, they didn't have a historical antecedent to compare themselves to. Here with the MAGA, you do. And what is happening is that the power of propaganda by Joseph Goebbels basically is there. You always point the finger at the designated enemy. You always point the finger. You don't take a moment. You have to dominate the narrative. You have to create the story. And this is what Donald Trump, in terms of communication, has done. He's been a genius at this. Not because he's a genius, because he's not. But because of the state of the American population, which, Dr. Vab, you remember, I've talked many times about the dumbing down of America for the last 4 decades and giving a perfect example of the BCKs, aka brain cell killer shows, and example, a show such as The Simpsons. The American population is purposefully dumbed down, making it easier and possible not only to have elected a man such as George W. Bush, who, if anyone is honest, people thought America could not get a worse president back then. Until Donald Trump, people realized George Bush wasn't so bad. I'm putting this in bracket because for the Iraqis, he was terrible with the so-called weapons of mass destruction, using our brother Colin Powell to go make a fool of himself at the United Nations. But people thought 20 years ago, there's no way you could have a worse president than George W. Bush. And then look at Donald Trump. From The Apprentice TV show to the TV show is at the White House now. Always point to the enemy you designate and reinforce that message with a cult-like mentality of 30% followers? 30% of the American voting population buying anything and whatever he says. He's good. He's good. And this, again, is a pathetic failure, not just of the Democrats, but America had 4 years to save its own democracy. Brazil did not wait. Jair Bolsonaro, as we're speaking, has been condemned to 27 years in jail.
Hey, well, if you don't,
and they don't care about Trump's pressures to free him.
Your permission to interrupt, look what England did. They fired a secretary because of his involvement with Epstein. They got rid of him.
Yes, and that was the ambassador.
Yes,
that was the British ambassador to the
and
US.
he was scheduled to visit America. They cut ties with him before his visit.
Absolutely. So Donald Trump, as I've said time and again, is a creation of America, and Charlie Kirk that Trump truly spoke of as a spiritual son, as a prodigal son. And indeed, his wife is correct. The movement will not stop, and now we're seeing Charlie Kirk being elevated, as if he's going to be sitting next to Jesus Christ in heaven. Is that Christian behavior? to lack empathy towards innocent children killed in schools in order to defend the Second Amendment rights, aka to defend the gun lobby to the very end? Is that Christian behavior? No, that's Christian fascism. Cherry picking the Bible, just as I mean, this is the story of America since the very start. In terms of the indigenous, in terms of blacks. I mean, Donald Trump talking about the left, calling them fascists and all that, and Nazi, calling the right fascist and Nazi, but who talks about blood and soil? Donald Trump. Who agrees to the Great Replacement Theory? Donald Trump, Charlie Kirk.
It's what, and I'll ask you this also on Tuesday, and your thoughts may choose on Tuesday, but what does this tell you about America?
You see, one of my brothers did ask me that question, if I thought things were going to get better or worse. And I am not a pessimistic type of person. I'm also not a positivist. I am a realist. So I don't do left, I'm not into the left-right narrative, but I'm very much a Pan-Africanist and a realist. I think it will get worse because Donald Trump, first and foremost, because he starts at the top, he is not a man who is trying to bring peace and to unify the country. You're either with him or you're against him. There's no the nuances. And you can see this very much in most, I don't want to say all, in most of people who follow his movement. There are videos of people uh, who left uh, basically a right wing ideology. There are videos of people who left Christian fascism. But this is part of America. This is part of the America since 1619 that used the Bible to convince the Africans kidnapped that they were born and deserved to be slaves. This is the same America where the Mormons only a few years ago changed the rhetoric that black people could also enter heaven. And we have black Mormons. Like, how can you be a black Mormon? A few years ago, you were not allowed into heaven. And you're a Mormon. Why, you want to have a second wife that bad? Come on, let's be honest. We know our people. Like, this is the same America where our brother and Prince Martin Luther King said the most racist hour of America is 10 a.m. on Sunday mornings. I think it's gonna get worse. The social media algorithms. Oh, Dr. Vibe, you're on mute. I'm sorry. I think you were saying something, but I didn't hear you. I can't hear you, Dr. Vibe.
So the social media end of this will be a whole other conversation we got to save till Tuesday.
Yeah, the social media, but also, and when I say social media, don't get me twisted. On inauguration, January 20th, 2025, Donald Trump did receive the tech giants. Elon
Of
Musk is
course,
one of his good
and they
pals.
visited him a few weeks ago too.
There you go. So the radicalization is actually on both sides. They're going to elevate Charlie Kirk as a martyr, and they're going to do revisionism. Meanwhile, the screenshots are there. The screenshots are there about what he said. So you will have, just as with Donald Trump, those who will excuse and justify whatever has been said and done in order to vote for him. I mean, let's be honest here for a minute. Most men, and I'm only speaking of men, most men, whatever the skin color, would not want a man like Donald Trump in the family or among their acquaintances. How many bankruptcies? How many times caught lying? How many times caught cheating? Do I need to talk about grab them by the P word, aka female privates.
Yep.
The comments regarding young girls or even going into the
Oh,
change
what,
room
what
of the
about him and his drawing that he's trying to deny that he didn't make a drawing to Mr. Epstein?
please show me the fathers, black, white, Democrat, Republican, Christian, Muslim, atheist, rich, poor, whatever. Show me all those men that if you describe to them, would you be friend with a man with those A, B, C, and D? Would you allow them into your house? Would you allow them to come sleep over? Would you encourage your son or daughter? Would you encourage your son to have him as a role model and your daughter to be alone with this man? Show me those men who would say yes, and yet they would vote for him.
Now, that's a very interesting thing. I'd like someone in independent media to ask people, someone like a Don Lemon saying, hey, would you let a person with all these characteristics, would you vote for him? It's too bad because most people will know it's 47, but it's a very good point.
We know the answer. They don't care. It's the same way as on one side, they speak with two sides of the mouth. They will talk about Christianity, the Bible, and Jesus, and they will excuse all this misbehavior by Donald Trump. But if he was a black dude doing the same misbehaviors, they would justify a policeman having killed him.
Let's end it at that. More on Tuesday.
All
All right. As always, we want to thank Cesar for taking the time to hang out with us today. We got some bonus time because usually the producer's knocking at the door and running around. So we didn't have the producer come in today. But first things first, if you want to get in touch with Cesar, these are the best ways you can. Email president at Roots and Culture Canada, Facebook, Cesar Remy Emery. And it's also in the comments section on most of the platforms that you're watching this live. As always, subscribe to the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube and hit the notification button. Also follow the Dr. Vibe Show on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, and Substack. To advertise your business, product, or service on any of the platforms that I'm on, please email me dr.vibe at the drvibeshow.com. Also, if you want to find out more about Dr. Vibe, one simple link, taplink.cc/the Dr. Vibe Show. Also, too, you can watch replays of this epic conversation on the Dr. Vibe Show on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and the Dr. Vibe Show website. And just a reminder, live on Tuesday, September 16th, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, we'll be talking about Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, impact and views from blacks. Cesar will be there, Dr. Tachu will be there, and Emma Ansa. We may have some other people joining in, but right now we got a fantastic group of people that'll be joining that conversation. So, as we count it down, as always, live your life as a dream. If you live your life as a dream, if you want to dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy. Remember to give yourself grace. And if you're not making money, make history, but try to do both and finally make it better. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith, walk good, and we'll chat with you soon.
Just take a quick moment.
Yeah.
You just introduce yourself. Let Dr. Vibe welcome you into the show. As I told you, Dr. Vibe.
No. But for many people, the economy ain't great. There we go. I saw that.